All right, so what's the role of your realtor? So the first thing is to help you find and access properties. Now, what's interesting is this used to be, in my view, the most important thing that realtors did is they had access to the MLS. They had access to the information about what homes are listed for sale and how much they're listed for. And they were your key, literally key, this is a pun, they're your key to get into the home. Well, that isn't necessarily true anymore. Technology has changed that. You can Google and find all of the information about almost all of the homes that are listed for sale. And there's even situations where they can use AI to get you into the home without a human being being present. Now, it's not that common, but it is happening where they're using computer systems to unlock the door. And so you just have to confirm it's you. You scan a QR code, the door unlocks, and you get to go into the home, and no human has to be there with you. Well, for some people, I guess that's a good thing. But the truth is, finding the home, whether you go to an open house, you don't need a realtor to help you walk into an open house. There's already one there. I'll talk to you in a couple of minutes about whether that's a good idea to work with that realtor or not. But the fact of the matter is that the thing people always thought realtors were needed for is finding the home and getting access to it. And some people say, John, do I even need a realtor? Because I can find the home and get access to it myself. I'm going to talk a little bit more later about, do you really need a realtor? But here's the reality. The reality is there are 3 other major things that a realtor does for you that you cannot give up. The first one is they advise you. Now, maybe that's advice on what other neighborhoods you should be looking in. I actually live in the home that I live in right now. I never expected to buy in this neighborhood. I honestly didn't even know this neighborhood existed. And I met a realtor in a totally different neighborhood and was walking through an open house, and she started asking questions about what we were looking for and told us, hey, have you ever thought about that other neighborhood in the other town down the street? Because it sounds exactly like what you're looking for. And I kid you not, 2 years later, and I own a home there. So it's really about having a realtor that understands you and gives you really, really good advice. Maybe that's advice on, what type of inspections you need, which is something we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes. What do you want? Sorry, I got distracted for a second. What inspections do you need? Do you need a home inspection? Do you need a roof inspection? We'll talk about the inspections in a couple of minutes. So advice is critical, and having the right person giving you the right advice at the right time is priceless. They also help negotiate. That's the biggest piece of the buying process that people misunderstand. They think, hey, you know what? The home's listed for $400,000. I'll write an offer for $400,000. The seller takes it and I'm done. There's way more to negotiation than price, but even simply understanding strategy of price is critical, having the right real estate agent that understands how to walk you through that. And so a realtor's job is to explain to you, hey, this house that's listed at $400,000 is listed high. It's been on the market for 90 days and nobody's written an offer and they haven't lowered the price. So I think that we can lower the price. I think that we can, offer less on this home and be able to proceed with a lower price. But they might also tell you tomorrow, hey, this house is listed for $400,000. It's underpriced. This house is actually priced less than what it should sell for because it's really probably going to sell for $425 or $430. So if you want it, we've got to offer more. And people misunderstand and think a realtor is just trying to make more money off of me by getting me to pay a higher price. That's not true. The realtor makes very little as a percentage of the price. Getting you to pay $10,000 or $20,000 extra doesn't make them very much money at all. But what it does is it gets you the home. And that's your goal. Your goal is to not to write offers. The goal is to find your dream home and get it accepted. And so you've got to have a realtor that you trust that will negotiate on your behalf. And negotiating doesn't mean getting you a lower price. Negotiating means figuring out what it's going to take to get the offer accepted. And that goes well beyond price. That goes to what I call terms. So terms is how long is the escrow period? How long are the contingencies on the home? What are we offering as an upfront earnest money deposit? Who pays for title and escrow fees? There's so many little things that a great realtor can do in negotiating on your behalf to make sure you get your number one goal, which is to get this offer accepted on this home without overpaying for the home. And that's what a great realtor will do for you. All right. The last thing that I think a great realtor does for you is oversees the details. Make sure that the inspector gets out there on time. Make sure we hit our timelines. Make sure that when somebody needs to come, if you've got somebody that needs to come in to do something, an inspection on the home, that they're going to get out there and make sure they meet that inspector and make sure that everything goes well. A realtor's job is to follow up on the paperwork and make sure. There's a lot of paperwork involved with buying a home, and the realtor handles all of those details. So having a great realtor overseeing the details is critical. Now, can I buy a realtor? Can I buy without a realtor? Well, first of all, if you're buying a home where the seller has a real estate agent, then you have one too, because there's something called dual agency. And most of the time, when you are buying a home with only one realtor involved, that realtor is representing both of you. Now, there's times when that's a good idea, but it's pretty rare. It's few and far between. It's kind of like asking an attorney to represent you and the person that you're in a lawsuit against. Not a really wise idea to have somebody representing both sides. So bring your own realtor. It does not cost you more in buying the home if there's already a realtor involved. You want to make sure that when you go to visit a home, the first time you visit any home other than an open house, that you have your realtor with you. Have your realtor be the one that opens the door and shows you the home. There's a California law called procuring clause that says the realtor that opens the home for you, well, they're the reason why you're interested in that home, and they're due the commission on the sale of your home, which means you've essentially hired the person that opened the door for you. So if you go onto Zillow and you click the button saying, hey, I want to see this house, and somebody drives out there and introduces you to the house, introduces you to it. Hi, house. Hi, person. No, they don't do that. But somebody drives out there and they open up the house for you. Legally, you've hired them as your real estate agent, and they're the ones that are supposed to represent you in buying that home. So when you pick a realtor, call that realtor and say, hey, I found a house I love, and I'd like for you to come show it to me. If they're busy, they typically have backup. They have someone else who can help you open that home, and they are still representing you. So that's very, very critical. Now, what about a private sale? People say, okay, John, that's fine. Yeah, if my seller has a realtor, then so do I. That makes perfect sense. But there's times when you're in a private sale. There's times when you're buying a house from your uncle, you're buying a house from your landlord, and you say, you know what? Do we really need a realtor? Well, the fact is, if you go back to the prior slide of what I was talking about, the facts of what the realtor can do for you. Let's see if I can make this work really quick. Oh, hold on, wrong button. All right, so find and access a property. We already found it because you found it in a private sale. Advise. Well, you know what? You really do still need advice, because you still need to figure out, hey, do I need home inspections on this property or not? Is this the right property for me? Or are there other properties out there that are cheaper than this one? Sometimes when you're in a private sale, you get sucked into tunnel vision and you say, oh my gosh, this house is right here waiting for me. I should buy it, especially if you already live in it, especially if you buy from your landlord. By the way, I think it's a great tactic to buy your house you live in from your landlord. You pay nothing in moving expenses. You're already there. You know everything about the home, or at least for the most part, and it makes it easier for your landlord because they already have the buyer right there. Except you run the risk of overpaying if you don't get a realtor involved, because otherwise you're going to be in a position where you're going to say, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I'll buy it. And the landlord says, well, you know, I think it's worth $500,000. You're like, oh, okay, well, let's get the appraisal done. As long as the appraiser agrees. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The appraiser's job is not to come up with their own opinion of value. The appraiser's job is to agree or disagree with what the buyer and seller have already negotiated. So if you pick a price of $500,000 and the appraiser's like, well, houses like this are selling between $450,000 and $500,000. So yeah, I agree that 500 is a reasonable price for this home. He'll rubber stamp it. Now, it's not a rubber stamp. There's a process the appraiser goes through, but the appraiser will rubber stamp it and say, yep, $500,000 is what it's worth because homes like it are selling between $450,000 and $500,000. But if you could find the similar home for $450,000 right down the street, is it worth moving? Yes, it is. So that advice from your realtor is critical. So just because it's a private sale doesn't mean you shouldn't use a realtor. They also negotiate on your behalf, and they also oversee the details on your behalf. So it's very, very important, even when you have a family or private sale, to consider having a realtor. The problem is the seller is not expecting to pay a real estate agent. So when your landlord says, I'll sell you the house for $400,000, it's really worth 450. Maybe it is and maybe it isn't. But you say, okay, but I want to bring in a realtor and I want a realtor to be part of the transaction. The seller says, no. We get a realtor involved and now I got to pay them. I got to charge you more for the home. Well, that's where the realtor would negotiate. But the truth is, you just tack on the cost of the realtor onto that $400,000 price. And therefore you are the one paying for it. The landlord still gets the $400,000 they wanted. You're just paying a little extra for the home so that the seller can pay the realtor on your behalf. All right. Let's talk about some myths about real estate agents. People have said, oh my gosh, Sean, it's always cheaper to use a listing agent because, well, that way they don't have to pay two realtors. They can only pay one. That isn't true. The truth is the listing agreement most of the time with the seller says we're going to pay X percentage that is split between the two agents. And if there's only one agent, they get the whole pie. So it's an incentive to the agent to get your offer accepted, so make twice as much money. That is a benefit to working with the listing agent if you're in a competitive situation, but you got a lot of negatives to go along with that. So you have to decide if that's really worth the cost. Now, some people think I'm stuck with an agent I don't like. You're not. Now, there are circumstances where an agent will have you sign something called a buyer broker agreement. I have mixed emotions about that. I don't really care though. It's the realtor basically saying, I agree. You agree as a buyer that if you buy a home in the next 12 months, you're using me. And if you use anybody else, I still make the commission. I don't have a problem with that as long as the realtor is willing to back out of it if there's not a fit. If you don't like them, you shouldn't be stuck using them or forced to wait a year to buy a home. So my opinion is if you have a realtor that wants to do that, I'm fine with that as long as they're willing to let me out if we have a disagreement. I'm not going to go cheat on you for the fun of it. But if I don't feel like there's a fit, I need to be able to get out of that. The other next myth is more agents mean more options. I kind of alluded to this earlier. Look, having more realtors on your behalf gives you less service, not more. So don't try and have multiple realtors serving you. It serves nobody. Another myth, I should only work with full-time agents. Now, I'm a fan of full-time realtors. I think that people who dedicate all of their time and energy professionally to real estate are typically more in the know, typically sharper at their skills and are going to do a better job for you. But that isn't always true. So just recognize that a real estate agent that's a part-time agent doesn't make them a bad realtor, but you need to triple check a little bit to make sure that they're sharp and on top of what they're doing, because some part-time agents are very, very part-time and they're selling one house a year while they're doing one other job and they aren't very adept at what's going on in the market. Okay. The last myth about picking a realtor is my realtor should be available 24/7. I laugh because I don't know, 10 years ago, the National Association of Realtors ran TV ads that said real estate agents, we don't have a life so that you can, or something like that, or we work all the time so that you can enjoy your life. Well, that was kind of rude because it basically said that realtors, your job is to be at my beck and call and do anything I want. And if I want to call you at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning and tell you to come show me a house right now, or 8 o'clock on a Friday night, you better do it. Your realtor has a life. They have a family. How would you feel if your boss called you all the time? Recognize realtors understand. They signed up for a job where their clients, you, work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so you're not likely available to go see a home during those hours. So you need to be available to look at homes at nighttime and on weekends. But that doesn't mean that they give up their entire life and dedicate their life to you. So just recognize realtors are people too.